Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Growth Capital Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Dixon, and today we've got Steven Atkins on the podcast. He is the co founder and CEO of Ease AI. Ease AI is a sales training platform that helps train your sales teams with AI powered practice calling, as well as some sales enablement tools that he's built. The company is about 4 months old. It was started in February of 2025. So we dig into his journey from being a high-powered salesperson within both large and startup companies, and his kind of pivot to wanting to start his own business, and actually the very unique way that he found his co-founder through a co-founder matching program through Y Combinator. So really fascinating episode. We dig in deep into a lot around the AI and how he's using it within his clients, and what it's like to start a business in 2025. So let's get Steven on the pod. Interested in hearing conversations with private equity leaders, CEOs of private equity-backed companies, and startup entrepreneurs where they share their stories about their career journeys, starting, investing in, and scaling successful businesses, and the important role that having the right talent plays in building a successful business, then you are in the right place. Welcome back to another episode of the Growth Capital Podcast. Here's your host, Justin Dixon. All right, Steven, welcome to the podcast. Happy to have you on, man.
Hey, likewise, Justin. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Well, let's jump in. Maybe give a little bit of an overview of who you are, where you are, and what you're up to right now.
Yeah, of course. So Steven Atkins, co-founder and CEO of a company called Ease AI. We're a revenue enablement platform that helps to coach, enable, and serve frontline sales and service teams. We do a lot through training, that's AI sim role play and call quality scoring. And we've been moving downstream to more the enablement stack, where we offer AI note takers and things like deal rooms to streamline buyer journey and purchasing process. But yeah, we're likely relatively newer than a lot of your guests. We started the company back in February and have self-funded to date. So we've just been kind of pursuing this path of slow, profitable growth. And man, it has been such a fun journey to move from growing and managing early stage venture-backed sales teams now to being a founder myself.
Very cool. Well, I definitely want to unpack and get more into Ease AI, but I love people's origin stories. I love how they kind of get from being a W-2 employee to being an entrepreneur. So maybe give us a little bit of background on your career, and then would love to kind of understand the inflection point going from, employee to founder.
Yeah, great question. I'm sure my journey is probably pretty adjacent to most founder journeys. I've always had a bit of an itch to explore entrepreneurship, my own ventures. I've done everything. I think in this day and age, it's prudent to be able to have a couple different contingency plans, especially when you're a startup guy and you like the chaos. But there's also a very practical aspect. I think the average tenure of a sales leader, a revenue leader at an early stage startup is, I think, like 17 months. I would actually argue within the past 2 or 3 months, that's gone down to maybe 9 to 10, just anecdotally from conversations I've had. But yeah, I started out as a startup guy. I realized back this was probably 2011, that not every startup is the next Facebook. So I kissed a couple of frogs early in my career and decided I needed to go get a sort of Fortune 500 corporate education, which led me to a small company called ADP, where I did sales for a long time. And
Right.
I kind of tiptoed back and forth into startup world. I was at another large company called Gartner for a while, and realized very quickly, serving our large $1 billion plus revenue customers with global technology consulting sales, there's just a whole world that's underserved by tech. So I went into the venture space, hoping to hockey stick my way as a sales leader to the next big thing, and it's been a fun journey. I decided back in February, I think I've seen friends become founders and founders become friends. and realized no one is doing anything wildly novel that is totally impossible to do. So I decided to throw my name in the hat and pursue my own venture.
Awesome. So before you jumped into your own startup, I guess walk us through, because I'm very curious, because I've spent time in startups from a corporate standpoint as well as working for big Fortune 50 companies.
Hmm.
Some people thrive in one environment versus the other. Very few people, in my experience, thrive in both, because they're
Yeah.
completely different dynamics. So maybe walk us through, because you've been in sales for your career, right? And obviously your startup is supporting sales and training and all that, which we'll get into in a second. What did you see as similar or different environments from a sales perspective, both as a salesperson, and maybe a sales leader, that you see as like the biggest differentiator between being a salesperson in a startup versus a salesperson in like an ADP?
It's a really good question. The short answer: there's a level of scrappiness that I think I had that was not terribly valued.
Mm,
I think there's especially when you have a polished, very mature sales playbook with a highly defined ICP, very tailored messaging across buyer personas. If you go off script and get a little too creative, you're going to get a slap on your wrist. So I always was finding different ways to go rogue
mm,
when I was selling deals, getting as creative as possible. And while the outcome was always a positive outcome, my path there was a lot more. Oh, watch out for Steven. What is he going to do in this cycle? So I think that's been the through line in a startup environment where that level of tenacity and just relentless commitment to get the deal done in whatever way, shape, or form. I think that's been a lot more valuable. And especially, going to market with a product that is about 4 months old. Our net is so wide that we need to sell to everybody and get
yeah.
that level of virtuous feedback that says this is the right customer profile, the right buyer persona, the right timing, messaging, and CV. That I think you only learn by trying things over and over and over.
Yeah. And while you were in some of these big and small companies, and obviously AI has been, rapidly expanding over the last, call it 24 months or so. And a lot more companies are using it, testing it, trying it, right? Because everybody's got, AI in something, right? And so what were you seeing being used internally before you decided to jump out and start Ease AI?
It's a really good question. I also think, I'm going to inadvertently answer a different question before I dive in. We'll take the long way. I think one of my skills that has actually led me to believe that we can self-fund this thing, at least for the first mile, is I've been probably too much of a good steward of company capital.
Mm,
So when I've led sales organizations, especially early stage sales organizations, I've thought we can figure out a way without blowing too much cash to MacGyver and put wire and bubble gum together and create our own tech stack. So obviously you have your usual suspects, your CRM, your HubSpot and Salesforce, and you have all of your enablement software like Gong, like Clary. But I've seen us, at the last two startups I was at, we kind of were able to stay super, super lean. Um, Now that I've come to Ease, I'm kind of eating crow a little bit and said, I love these tools. Why haven't I been using them to their fullest extent and sort of managing my buying power, owning a P&L my whole career? Because you can find so much efficiency if you just automate all of the things that are automatable
yeah.
and really allow your sales teams to be good at what they're good at, which is managing relationships. And I also feel like, this day and age, that's your superpower. It's not what tech you use. It's how good can you manage a buying relationship, soup to nuts, and how good at you are finding the things that don't move the needle on that relationship, and leave that to AI.
Yeah. All right. So we're back in February, or I guess at what point you said you always had this itch to start a business, and kind of you were on the corporate side of the startup world, and then you wanted to be on the founder side. I guess at what point did the rubber really meet the road where you're like, okay, I'm going to start Ease AI, and how did the idea kind of start? Like, let's start at that point, and then we'll talk about like the actual jump to being a founder.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I believe we're in sort of uncharted times, and uh, I believe that AI, in terms of, you know, globally, not just in terms of sales, revenue, and productivity and enablement tools, it's still a new category. It's still burgeoning, and I was very fascinated with how, you know, is this sort of the next, the coming wave that has finally arrived, where you sort of meet the moment and decide, I'm going to ride this with all of the power that I can muster and momentum that I can muster. So exploring that and knowing this is kind of a take it or leave it moment to really capture value creation, rolling out all sorts of new AI tools. That was kind of the thought that was in my mind. Now,
Okay.
back in February, where the rubber meets the road, you know, we at my last company had a great achieving banner year, but as goes some of the board members and investors, sometimes good isn't good enough. They want really outsized returns. And I realized, again, the writing was kind of on the wall that, you know, while we had put up some big numbers, these were not the favorable outcomes that our VC sponsors and board members were really looking for. So I ended up kind of taking my own leap of faith and said, you know, before I get the axe, I'll kind of walk away and do my own thing. And I think it's been a really, really fun transformational journey for me. And I've been able to nerd out on the things I love to nerd out on, which is the revenue stack. So that's been a sort of the fun full circle journey for me that really just started a few months back.
Yeah. And I guess, how did you set yourself up? Some people I talk to, and I would lump myself into this category of like, I'm a very risk averse person, right? And so even though I took the jump and started my own business, you know, almost a little over 5 years ago, like I had spent about a year, 18 months setting myself up both mentally, financially, et cetera, to be as prepared as I possibly could and give myself enough cushion that I possibly could. So if shit hit the fan, which it did, because I started a business in January of 2020, right before COVID started. So it hit the fan for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But like some people I talk to are like, they just one day thought, I'm going to start a business. I don't have any money in the bank. I'm just going to go figure it out. And they do. And so I'm kind of curious if there's two ends of the extreme where, you know, the burn the boats with no plan, figure it out, or to me, which is very risk averse, I need to have a plan that's set in place. Where do you fall in that spectrum of kind of jump and then figure it out, or build a plan first?
Yeah, I love that question. Ask me again tomorrow. You'll probably get another answer, because some mornings I look at myself in the mirror and think, you are a brave, courageous entrepreneur, and you are going to make this work come hell or high water. Other days I see myself in the mirror and think, you're reckless. What are you doing here, buddy? But I think that's just sort of the duality of the founder's dilemma. It's like,
Yeah.
am I optimizing for doing work that I believe is meaningful, that I believe I'm better suited to do than the rest of the market? Or do I want to optimize? This goes back to, you know, when I was working at, you know, when I was at large corporate organizations where I'm earning well, this is a great living, but I can kind of see how this movie plays out. And
Mm-hmm.
in 15 years, yes, I'll have hopefully an SVP, an EVP, a C-level title, but man, at what cost? That's kind of boring to me. So to answer your question, I think sales and really technology sales for me has been such a great place to cut my teeth. It's like it's almost equivalent to, in my mind, like a Stanford MBA. Just if you can commit and actually have this anecdotal experience to learn things and grow and have real live conversations with people who have climbed and achieved their entrepreneurial career dreams, you can learn so much. You can also earn pretty freaking well.
Yeah.
So I also, think about if there's anybody out there who's thinking, how do I figure out this mousetrap of start my own gig, but also fund it? Go into sales. There's a great path for you to be a high earner. And if you have the drive and are willing to burn the midnight calories, you can also do something, 9 to 5 and 5 to 9 as the
Yep.
clock flips. So that was sort of a fortunate path that set me up on a trajectory to be able to self-fund and really look in the mirror and say, I've now, I think in total, been at 4 startups that have not just grown
Right.
like wildfire. I I have the personal circumstance to hold off and be very selective about what I want to do next. And I think it lended itself well to where I'm at with Ease AI.
No, that's great. So let's talk about Ease AI. So maybe give a little bit more of a
Please.
deeper dive into the platform. And I guess before you do that, how did you come up with it? Like, what was and then you mentioned you're a co-founder. So do you have
Mhm.
other people in the business that are supporting you? So yeah, I asked like 4 questions there. So let's just start with the platform, talk more about it, and then we'll dig into some other stuff.
Yeah, of course. It's really funny. I just by pure chance was entertaining the Y Combinator founder matching and
Mm,
thinking maybe eventually. And I've been doing this now, meeting co-founders, talking to entrepreneurs for I don't know 4 years, thinking that I have my ideas, I can play a little bit of jazz with some people, and maybe we can come up with a beautiful product composition. And I met my co-founder, whose name is Naveen, who's our co-founder and CTO through co-founder matching. And I actually believe, we both came from an insurance background where we were in insurtech or healthcare at different points in our career. And I thought I probably would have met this guy eventually on the street at a conference. But it was just by pure luck of the draw that we met through YC co-founder matching. And we started doing small projects together and
mm,
thinking, is this a good proof of concept for our working style, our founder philosophy? He probably, between us and your podcast audience, got a little bit annoyed with me.
okay.
I was giving him like 40 questions of personality assessments, like being hyper analytical about, are we going to hop into this marriage together? But that's how, that was sort of the origin story of Ease AI. And we initially went to market. Our thesis was there are products like insurance products that these large companies that are highly doing a lot of sales over the phone or virtual sales rooms, and we can help them with large training cohorts month over month train their teams very, very easily through both a level of academic, we're going to quiz you on these 17 products that your insurance company sells, and through AI sim role plays. And so we realized once again, that insurance just, and I should have known this, and I kind of did know this, that's an industry that I hold very near and dear to my heart. So I don't want to say I'm throwing any shade at my insurance friends, but they're historically just allergic to new tech. And so I decided that's probably not the fastest path to market. And so we pivoted here and there, and our where ultimately we've landed is we've become completely industry agnostic through our AI sim role play training. Rather than even selling directly, we're getting a whole lot of traction with aggregators through channel partnerships, who provide consulting, sales training, sales coaching for frontline sales teams. So that's been kind of the big unlock for us, which is, wow, we can actually go get 10 to 20 customers with the same amount of work as we were pursuing getting a single customer. So that's been a big unlock for us. And where our product and platform sits today is we found a lot of success early days through training and coaching, through our AI sim role play, call quality scoring tools, and coaching blueprints that we provide, all AI powered. But where we've evolved now is more into the enablement space, and even further downstream to helping to streamline the buyer journey is where our rapid and everyday accelerating product strategy and journey is going.
Interesting. And so going back to the co-founder matching. So how does that work? So you sign up with Y Combinator and you say, I have an idea, or yeah, maybe just explain how it works because I had not heard of that before.
Yeah, it's very much a dating profile for for nerds, I think. But yeah, you have your profile. It talks about your CV, your resume, what you feel are like your most outstanding accomplishments. And do you have an idea? Are you working on one? Are you willing to scrap it if someone has a better one? Um, and so, my exercise has been I'll have 5 of these conversations a week, just trying to match with interesting people that could want to do something fun. And I've met lifelong friends out of this, by the way, which is such a funny place to meet a new buddy. But yeah, after, I don't know, man, it was probably hundreds of these conversations over the past few years. Naveen and I just really philosophically hit it off. He's one of those rare co-founders who is very technical, but also a fluid, direct communicator. And I found that our vision is to keep this team as lean as humanly possible for as long as possible. And because we're both willing to get scrappy, and sometimes I can put on his hat and come off as maybe a little more technical than I'm comfortable with. It's a learning experience, and sometimes he can help me out on the sales and business development side as well. So it's been a good match made in YC co-founder matching heaven.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, no, that's. I mean, because there's a lot of people out there that are probably, and I may lump myself in that, where I've got a lot of ideas, but I'm not technical, right? So if I want to build something technical, I need to find either pay for somebody to build it, or find some type of technical co-founder to work with, which is fascinating. Um, so you've been doing this for 4 months, right? You guys launched in February. You obviously, it sounds like you had a few ideas that you proved were maybe not the right path going down the insurance route. You pivoted a little bit to being more industry agnostic. So, you know, do you see this tool as being as impactful for startups, similar to kind of some of the business that you used to work with, versus being going and selling this to like an ADP who, maybe they have their own internal
Yeah.
AI sim? Like, where do you see the size profile of company regardless of maybe industry?
This is so funny. I was on a call this morning actually, and this is someone who I was really just seeking very direct feedback from, and who asked me the same question. And my response has been the direct benefits are certainly much more scalable, and we can talk about sort of the theory of enterprise value creation at scale with large, we'll call it even, your true mid-market organizations. Um, and I think we're realizing the direct benefit is much more in that mid-market. Now, the indirect benefit is the way that our platform works is we ingest all of your assets, artifacts, sales services playbooks, standard operating procedures. Hell, we're even pulling as many call transcripts as you can offer us. And
Mm.
we're creating a knowledge base, feeding that to our model, and basically creating a very customized environment where the AI knows you just as well as your sales leader or your CEO, for that matter, when we're talking about startups. So the indirect benefit has been funny because we found a lot of traction with startups. Now, startups don't have a level of documentation that is rigorous and sophisticated the same way your upper middle market to enterprise organizations do. So an indirect benefit is now we've started creating a lot of templates to say,
Mm.
let's help you document this as we go. No knowledge base, especially one that you're working with AI, is static. It's always evolving. It's always growing over time. So knowing that, we're able to actually work with our startup customers and say, let's start somewhere, and it's going to evolve, and we're going to be a true partner to you to be able to do that. So the answer is yes, our product works for startups. I believe we are infinitely scalable, but the use case and value realization is just very different depending on the segmentation and customer profile.
With your AI model, like, you're obviously training it per customer, and is it, are you leveraging a large language model like a Chat GPT on the back end, or did you guys create kind of your own LLM that you kind of trained, and now you're training it even more with more and more customer data?
It's a great question. I feel like I open my LinkedIn or email every day, and I see advancements that are mind blowing with every major LLM and some brand new de novo LLMs every day. So our thought has been we want to use sort of a model routing strategy where we can have closed circuit client environments that we train that LLM and we test that LLM for different use cases. And so then we sort of mix and match and are able to, do a little bit of thematic pattern matching to pair a specific LLM with a specific customer use case. So our thought is we got to be agile and adaptable and not have all of our eggs in one basket at this stage. So we measure mostly, our cost versus output, and that's the metric that allows us to identify which is the best model for each customer instance, each specific use case.
And then the pricing model, is it just a traditional SaaS kind of subscription depending on how many reps, or do you have a unique pricing model to, for customers?
Yeah, it's been really, really interesting because I think our MVP was purely based on this AI sim role play, call quality scoring, and coaching blueprints. So much of this model, we've been paying so much attention to how other AI is putting together consumption-based pricing, whereas the rest of our platform is a pure B2B SaaS play. So we have a bit of a hybrid model now, and it's a monthly per user software license. And as we release more and more features and more tooling, we try to layer in sort of this hybrid license plus consumption, but we do offer bundled usage on the front end. So we try to accommodate every type of, we'll call it buyer, who is a little bit more preferential maybe to, we've been using other AI tools, so we can do this consumption-based pricing. Whereas other customers are like, what? We're used to buying software in a per month license per seat basis. So we kind of can amortize that on both ends. But yeah, it's hybrid at this point.
Got it. And I guess as you get feedback, as most early stage companies, part of it is we have this idea, and obviously you tested it with insurance, and that maybe wasn't the right path initially. Like, what are you hearing from your customers around? This is something that is better, different than we have access to from other tools. I'm sure there's other sim, AI sim powered things out there. Like, what kind of makes your product a little bit maybe different or unique? So that people can say, hey, this is an option that I want to test out?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really, really good question because, I thought that we were going to be taking over the world with our AI sim role play. And of course, every 2 hours, 7 more AI sim role play companies are popping up. I believe that AI sim role play is a feature, and we have decided we are not a feature company. We are platforming around every innovation that AI is affording us. And that's really the thesis. That is the bet of the company, is that there are use cases that are completely unknown that we are going to be exploring that haven't been revealed or gone to market with today. So our sort of first level of feedback is working with thought partners, design partners, and customers and saying, what doesn't exist? Like, how creative can you get when we imagine the perfect enablement tool, productivity tool, streamlining the buyer process tool? Like, let's think about something that is totally novel. And we're finding that some of that is achievable. And then we're also finding there's also other companies out there that are doing the same thing. And we're just trying to figure out what is our unique differentiator with that. So to your point, there's not a silver bullet. It's not like we're gonna go innovate our way into something that is totally brand new. It's a balancing act of how can we create and measure a customer experience that we believe we can deliver that's unique to Ease AI. The other thing I'll share is we have really been doubling down on this channel partnership and distribution model, where if we can kind of create an easy button for our partners to say, okay, you're building, you have and are building 3 of the 5 features that we believe are the next thing. It actually allows us to capture that market share and create a single buying experience for them to find different ways to provide value themselves. So I think that's been a unique differentiator for us as well.
Yeah, I think the channel partner sales route is very interesting and can be scalable, assuming you can train your partners, right? Because obviously they've got a bunch of different software that they're
Mm-hmm.
selling, and so you've got to always be top of mind and be good from a product standpoint to so that they can sell it. Um, I want to just touch on the self-funding thing a little bit, because a lot of
Yeah.
people when they when they go into startup world, right, the especially having a little bit of the Y Combinator connection, which is all about raising money. And I talked to another entrepreneur that I had on here who lived in Silicon Valley, and essentially the raising money was more of the cool thing versus building a cool product, right? And
Yeah.
so why did you take the self-funded route? Because a lot of startups are, don't. They typically have an idea, they go raise VC money, and they think that's the best path.
Yeah, I don't think that raising VC money is inherently wrong or right. I'm actually hyper lukewarm to really enter any sort of capital structure which can enable you to go do whatever your dream is and whatever your product vision is. I think I have a little bit of a venture hangover
Mm.
from being at companies that and just seeing the ecosystem, I think, overraise, and companies that take 7 years to find product market fit and are willing to, raise more money and then go through this cycle of burning more people. And I believe actually that there is a path for slow, profitable, efficient growth. And when the time is right, when you capture a little bit of lightning in the bottle and you are taking external capital to really grow and really scale, not necessarily to create an environment to pay an outsized founder salary and just create your own job. I think that that's the move. And that's what I believe we are. I want to lend us the opportunity to have that option when we feel like, oh my gosh, we have absolutely hit it. And the cool thing is, I think we're pretty close to hitting it.
Mm.
So that positive friction of, is it us that's creating a bottleneck for our own growth? When we start to hit that with a little bit more statistical significance with our own data, that's when I'm like, all right, maybe we're a little bit more warm to that VC idea. But as of today, we have just been thinking, is it okay for us to live off of mustard and ketchup sandwiches for as long as possible till we figure this out? And so far we've been able to do that with enough success that leads me to believe we can do it for a little bit longer too.
Well, having a profitable business is pretty sexy, and it doesn't have to be this raise burn kind of mentality. Having
Yeah.
something that's generating value and also generating profit is pretty cool. So it's not a bad thing to be self funding, and to your point, if you hit that inflection point where you're like, we are missing opportunities that we could if we had a little bit more gasoline in the tank,
Mm-hmm.
then you're in a much better spot to go raise money, and you also have more proof, and you'll be a lot more attractive to a VC or a private equity or an angel group or whatever, because you've already proven it, you've tested it, you've got revenue, and now you just need the gas to really hit the gas pedal. Um, what,
Absolutely.
what do you see? So we're recording this in kind of mid-June 2025. If we jumped on a podcast in 12 months from now, what are the maybe 1, 2, 3 things that if they all happen in that next 12 months would make that podcast super positive, and something you'd want to share?
Yeah, man, I think the best possible scenario is that we start to hit exactly what just happened, where we find that pull of the market that says we need more of these AI.
Mm.
And where we have this loyal customer base that says we love what you built, man, we want to buy more of it. go, how can we get more of what you're selling and what you're building and offering? So I think that's one. I also think, I also think that we will start to see more consolidation as a lot of AI tools either, burn out or take over or become so complementary to another software product that it just makes a lot of more sense to undergo more M&A or to roll up into more private equity. So I think when that trend starts, and I think we're already seeing a little bit of it, it's actually, I think, a pretty good environment for everybody, because then you see that, the proof of concept is very real and that there's a lot of appetite in the market for action. I also think if we can start to see cool young founders that are really leaning into doing business in a way that's powered by AI that enables them to operate in a more lean environment, and dare I say, go up to an IPO. Maybe not in 12 months, but who knows? You can be optimistic.
Yeah.
I believe that again will only enable even more founders to kind of put it on the line and go build life-changing, world-changing products that are amazing to the customers that they serve.
Yeah, we're in this weird, and we have been probably for the last, call it 12-ish months in the startup world where, raising money is not as easy as it was in 2021. Even if you have AI in your name, you've got to, have a lot more traction than you used to. And so I think the IPO market is one of those areas where if that starts to open up and people start to go public, then private companies will look at that. Private equity will start to sell some of their businesses that they've held on their platform, their kind of portfolio for longer than maybe they would have liked. So yeah, I'm hopeful that starts to really shift, and we're just in a little bit of a unknown future kind of world. But AI is definitely the here and now, and so that's awesome, kind of what you've been able to build in such a short amount of time. So thank you for kind of sharing your journey and really kind of talking through that evolution of sales to founder, which is pretty impressive. I want to kind of end the episode kind of like I do every episode with a 3-pack of questions. So first question is, what's an influential book or podcast that you would recommend?
Oh man, I'm a bit of a consumer of podcasts. I've found that that's my favorite medium. I think right now I'm really into another local Austin podcaster, Chris Williamson, who has a podcast called Modern Wisdom that covers everything from cool biohacking to startup entrepreneurs to people learning how to get in touch with their feelings. So I think my thought is that's a great, well-rounded sort of Renaissance type podcast for generalists out there.
Love it. I'll have to check that out. Obviously, because he's also here in Austin, so very cool. What's your favorite thing to do outside of work?
I have a 100-pound Bernedoodle who is actually resting at my feet right now, and he doesn't love the Texas heat, being a big, fluffy little bear cub.
Yeah.
But he does love short, frequent walks, and I've actually found, that's a good way for me in the middle of the day, to reset in between meetings, go out and do a nice little walk around Southwest Austin. So a little walking, a little hiking, a little listening to podcasting is kind of my way to balance out and relax and recharge as the ensuing chaos continues to ensue of startup world.
Yeah, fair enough. So last question here, favorite vacation spot, assuming you have time to take a vacation.
Yes. I'm sure as you have this question arise from time to time, people are hesitant to say, I have the hidden gem, because they don't want the secret to let out.
That's right.
I think the secret is pretty much out at this point. My favorite little spot is Sayulita, Mexico.
Okay.
It's on the Pacific side. And even more so, there's a neighboring town called San Pancho. and it's amazing surf, very bohemian yoga surfing vibes there. A lot of expats, so English speakers, and man, the sunsets over the Pacific Ocean over there are just unmatched. So if you haven't been, if you're into surfing and yoga, that's my top recommendation.
Very cool. I have not heard of that place, so I may have to convince the wife to go check it out. So very cool. Steven, man, it's been awesome to get to know you and get to know your story. If people want to learn more about you and what you're up to, or maybe want to, hear more about Ease AI and as a potential tool for their team, like what's the best way to connect with you?
Yeah, I am probably a little too plugged into LinkedIn at this point, so that is where I will be hanging out. Steven Atkins, or follow Ease AI. Or if anyone has a desperate need to have a convo with me, Steven at easeai.ai is my email. Happy to entertain any reach outs, cold or warm.
Awesome. Well, we will add all that stuff in the show notes. Steven, man, it's been really cool to meet you and get to know your story. I appreciate you being a guest on the podcast.
Thank you, Justin. This is awesome. I've really enjoyed being here.
I hope you found at least one actionable insight from this episode of the Growth Capital Podcast, your one-stop shop for insights from private equity leaders, CEOs, and startup entrepreneurs on starting, investing in, and scaling successful businesses, as well as the role having the right talent plays in growing a successful business. It would be greatly appreciated if you would rate and review this podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe and drop us a comment so we can expand the audience of this podcast. Thank you for all your support, and don't forget about upcoming episodes dropping every Tuesday.